Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, Cam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan, Cam, slam, jam. Oh boy.
Find the TFS pod and our playlists wherever you stream your podcast or music. Follow us on X at TheFinalScore35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into the 218th edition of the Final Score Network podcast. We're here. It's going to be our last one of the month of March. Most likely, that's pretty insane. We have 16 teams remaining in the bracket. Great first weekend. Michigan State spring football started last week. Tigers baseball starts this week. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit after basketball's done. We're 2 weeks away from the Masters and the first major of the season. Looking forward to that. The transfer portal's wide open, and there are about triple the amount of guys that were in at this time last year, and it's only going to grow after season's end, which is messed up beyond measure. Red Wings trying to sneak into the playoffs, probably not going to happen. They need a miracle. Have to go on a heater here, and that's probably not going to happen either. Let's get to
Michigan
it.
State Big Ten champ?
How could I forget? Michigan State Big Ten champs, 1 seed in the Toledo region. Probably Cornell on Thursday. Hopefully they can get it done this weekend and get to a Frozen Four. That'd be pretty awesome. If Michigan State could go Frozen Four, Final Four in 1 weekend. Let's do it. Why not? And I'm going to stick with Michigan State for my podium, and I'm going to cross into the football world because we will not talk about Michigan State football probably for a few weeks, hopefully. And that's Jonathan Smith canceling Michigan State's spring game, and I applaud him for doing that for many reasons. One, because guys always just get hurt. Michigan State always has guys get hurt in spring stuff, so why just have another thing to get hurt in front of people, especially? Why show your plays? Most importantly, why show guys that could enter the portal and give other teams tape on them? Because that's really why teams are canceling spring games, because they don't want their guys to leave and get poached. And Smith really did say that. So I'm happy he just addressed the elephant in the room straight up. I think Michigan State, from what I've seen, read, they seem like their culture is kind of starting to kick it into gear a little bit. And Smith's getting his guys, their process, and hopefully it'll turn into a better season next year and keep improving as time goes on. But just to stay on the spring football thing, I know Nebraska's not doing it. Michigan, I think, is doing one because they're just...
I don't think Ohio State is.
Ohio State's not. Colorado's trying to play Syracuse, which is actually quite genius. We don't like Dion on this podcast, but not a bad idea. Very innovative.
Mm-hmm.
Get on TV. It's like an exhibition basketball game, basically. Might as well play against other guys. See what your guys are made of. But good on Michigan State and Jonathan Smith for canceling the spring game, keeping it inside as they trek toward making a bowl next year and improving.
It's the sad world that we live in with the transfer portal, which is ridiculous. And I urge you to go watch Tom Izzo's clip when he was asked a question about the transfer portal. I believe that was today, and he was pretty PO'd. Maybe it was yesterday, rightfully so, with the focus on what's going on. And his answer is epic. And I wish we had more guys like him, but we're getting less and less all the time because they don't want to deal with it. My podium is I kind of sat back as a basketball fan and listened a little bit of sports radio, a little bit of other podcasts, a little bit of coworkers, just a little bit of chatter in general. You know, people complaining that this tournament's just kind of boring so far. There's not enough Cinderella stories. It's the first one since 2007 where we don't have lower than an 11 seed in the Sweet 16. Blah, blah, blah. We were close. Colorado State at the buzzer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But here's the thing. That is coming from people who are March Madness fans, not basketball fans. The people who sign up for brackets and know nothing about college basketball and sometimes win those brackets because they know nothing and it typically is a crapshoot. But I'm telling you, while Cinderellas definitely make March exciting and they make it fun, and certainly buzzer beaters make March Madness fun and exciting, I'll tell you what really makes March Madness fun and exciting. It's not Cinderellas, who usually have the slipper fall off at some point in time. It's getting, in a year like this, with a lot of teams that have the potential to win, those teams all with still the potential to win. We really arguably did not lose, minus a couple of lower seeds, like, maybe like a Wisconsin and some things like that. We really didn't lose teams that had a legitimate chance to win the national championship. And basketball fans, if not the casual fans who only care for 3 weeks when their brackets are on the line, basketball fans should care. They should love that, because what we have is proof that we don't need an expanded tournament, that we have it just how we want it, just how we need it, that we have the best, basically, at least 16 of the best 20 teams in the nation, in my opinion, are playing in the Sweet 16. And that alone, for me, as a basketball junkie, watched all 52 games, not every minute, obviously, of every 52 games, but I watched at least probably a quarter of every single game last week, and certainly lots of games in full. Thank you for the 4-screen, 2-screen, 3-screen on YouTube TV, where you can watch multiple games and flip back and forth. But I'm telling you, the beauty of March is not just in the Cinderella. It's in good basketball with worthy potential champions. Y'all want to be like, oh, but Florida Atlantic a couple years ago and San Diego State and whatever. That was a boring as hell national championship, because none of those teams was going to beat UConn. Maybe it was exciting to get there, but you got to look big picture, in my opinion. And big picture, the 2025 National Basketball Association, National College Athletic Association, NCAA, March Madness tournament is, I would argue, one of the best that we've had in years.
I'd say by terms of teams remaining, yes.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the games have not been like epically exciting, minus Maryland, Colorado State, or whatever, but there have been good battles. There have been close games. We got some of these 1-8 matchups or 1-9 matchups that we called for last week on the pod that were really good games. There's, minus some of the blowouts in the first round, there really haven't been that many blowouts. When you start to really kind of whittle it down. And yeah, okay, so for the pound for pound the thrill of excitement or whatever, that's great and all. But at the end of the day, teams remember the Final Four teams and what it was like to win the national championship. And I think we're going to get a much more worthy and a better Final Four and national champion this year.
I hope so. All right, that is Podium this week. Let's get to T-Up, and we're going to stick with one of our favorite people. It's a common theme. We have our hated groups of people, and this guy's been on here before, and he's gonna continue. He's gonna keep making headlines like this. It's Dan Hurley and UConn.
Jeff Walgren's
dude has turned
doppelganger.
into the most insufferable jackass in college basketball.
Amen. And I was thinking about this today, Ryan. A year ago, we were thinking, why would he ever leave for the Lakers job? Good gracious, I wish he would.
Yeah, I wish he would have. He is everything that's wrong. He's going to hurt somebody. First and foremost, if you don't know what I'm talking about, he's had these outbursts for years now. Especially this year, he's had a few crazy things happen. And he was seen on a video after they lost to Florida on Sunday, walking into the tunnel, talking to the Baylor players, saying, "I hope they don't F you like they F'd us," complaining about the refs, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on CBS, an interview with Tracy Wolfson, saying, "We played and lost with honor," all this crap. And then one of his PR people at UConn threatens the guy that took the videos from a Charlotte news station that was filming when it happened, just filming them walking off into the tunnel. And he threatened this guy to ruin his career, whatever. It's just it's a poor look, very poor look. But Dan Hurt, like, I was reading something earlier, and people were right. Like, this dude is going to get into an altercation that's gonna ruin his life. He's gonna punch someone in the face. He's gonna get in a physical altercation with an official, a fan, another player, and he's gonna go down as one of the most what's the
He's going to be like a Woody Hayes.
Yeah,
he's going to
exactly.
infamous.
That's the word I was looking for. Just some infamous scene. He's on his he's been close to an official, to jumping an official. Dude is just so insufferable. It's like, dude, I know you won 2 national championships. Great. Like, a lot of people don't do that. Like, don't act like this. He doesn't know how to win. He doesn't know how to lose.
He's a petulant, entitled brat. And poke me if you haven't heard me say that about a certain fan base before, who thinks that their shit doesn't stink and that they can do no wrong and that everybody owes everything to them. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, that we share the state of Michigan with. I think it's embarrassing. If I was UConn, if I was the president, if I was the AD, I'd be like, look, Dan, you might have won 2 national championships, but you're embarrassing our school because you are an ass bag.
He really wants
you
to
are
be
a
Bobby
world-class... Look, Bobby Knight was Bobby Knight, but it was a little bit of a different time, and maybe that doesn't necessarily excuse it, but you could get away with a little bit more. But I think Bobby Knight, if you really peel it back, he would say some insightful, funny things. Not maybe in an appropriate way, but usually he had kind of a point. I'm not convinced that Dan Hurley has a point, except for to be stomping his feet and plugging his nose and jumping up and down and crying like a baby and look at me and woe is me and wah, wah, wah. It started in Maui and it ended appropriately this weekend. And look, here's the fact, Dan. The refs didn't cost you the game because Florida missed free throws on the stretch. Your ass guys didn't box out. They didn't get rebounds, and Florida beat you. If you want to talk about something, your team choked it away. Because we watched most of that game, and UConn was outplaying Florida arguably early. They choked it away. Not the refs. The refs have an impact, yes, at times, and it's not like Ryan and I don't ever complain about the refs because I think the officiating in college basketball is awful.
It's broken.
But it's just, it's so tired. And for somebody with back-to-back national championships to be such a petulant child, it's embarrassing. If I'm a UConn fan, I'm embarrassed by the way he acts. It's one thing to chew on refs like Izzo does, and and blow a gasket and maybe get a tee during a game and whatever. But in most cases, these guys have cooler heads prevail by the time they get to their press conference, and he just gets more worked up and worse. So if he doesn't do something that somebody's going to kill him over, his heart's going to explode because he's just an ass. He's just an ass.
Yeah, he is. He's awful. He's the most hated.
I mean, if he comes on my TV, I turn it. And I used to have respect for him as a basketball coach.
He's a great coach. He's just a psychopath.
I don't know.
X's and O's. He's an excellent coach. He's just a psychopath.
I don't know because he had a little bit less talent this year, and what did he do with it? Nothing, because he spent all his time ripping on the refs.
I mean,
instead.
but it's just embarrassing. And he also, last thing on him, he had went on some show after the Big East tournament saying anything short of a national championship is an embarrassment. Basically, I'm paraphrasing it, but dude, I get it, but that's so unrealistic, and so that's kind of a slap to the face of the game of basketball because it is so hard to win a national championship, to get to a Final Four, to win 2 games.
That's why they celebrate the Final Four, because getting to the Final Four is an epic accomplishment. I mean, of course you want to win. You want to get to the championship game and you want to win. Ultimately, that's the banner you want to hang, not the Final Four banner, but it is so hard. And so for him to basically whiz it all away with his behavior and his attitude, it's again, if I'm a UConn fan, I'm like, dude, go to the NBA where you can act like that and people don't care because people don't watch. The NBA is quickly becoming the WNBA. That's up for the fan to decide.
Yep. All right, let's jump into Around the World. We're back to it this week. We have a spot dedicated to golf again this week. We'll do it quick, but first, Spot 1 is presented by Norris Sports Group. NSG is a boutique agency of experts with 30-plus years experience in sports sponsorship and much more. Learn more about them today at norrissportsgroup.com. We go to golf. Last week, we had the last of the Florida swing, went to the Valspar, and a guy got off a schneid, Victor Hovland. First win since the Tour Championship in 2023, about a year and a half ago.
Wrestling with his swing all the way down the stretch, but he had 2 birdies in the snake
pit. He did what he had to do to win that golf tournament, and good on him. Came back from JT, was playing great, and then
he struggled in
the snake
pit.
him. And it cost him, but it's great to see JT up
He's
there.
had 3 runner-ups in 9 events this year.
He's played great. I think I said it to you on on Sunday when we were watching, I think he's bound to win something maybe big this year.
Yeah.
With the way he's playing so far.
I hope so. I like JT.
He's right there. But good tournament. That course is awesome. Excuse me. Would love to play. That's one of the hardest courses on tour. Just very un-Florida-like with tight fairways, some hills.
Elevation changes, trees.
Not a ton of water. Really cool course. But Victor, big week, gets back on his winning ways, and he basically said he didn't know which way the ball was going to go when he's swinging. That's actually insane.
But smart down the stretch. He was spraying his driver everywhere. He took his medicine. He hit iron off the tee, or he hit a fairway metal or whatever instead. And hey, he was victorious.
Yep. Our picks last week, you had Jake Knapp. He missed the cut, and I had Lucas Glover 8th. I'm on a bit of a. You were on a heater.
I was on a heater.
You were on a heater. You went 1-4, 25-5, and the last 4 for me, I've gone 25-1, 14-8.
Nice,
So,
similar. And then I had the MC this week.
Yep. But we go to the Houston Open at Memorial Park, a municipal course in the Houston area. Actually, some big names playing in this one this year. Rory's in there, Scheffler. I think who else is playing in there? Ricky, Tony Finau won a few years ago. Scotty, we were talking about right before this, almost won last year, lost by 1. Wyndham Clark, I don't like him, but he's playing in it. So good lineup. Probably a lot of these guys last tune-up before the Masters. Some of the major guys. Some guys trying to earn their way in. Ricky, I know, was outside the top 50, so he's trying to get one of those last spots. So we'll see how that goes. But looking forward to watching some of this on Sunday, early Sunday afternoon before some basketball, same as Saturday. But I'm going to go with a guy that's played well there in the past and played well the last couple of weeks, Davis Riley. He won, I think, was that last year or 2 years ago he won in Texas? I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was last year. It was Charles Schwab.
He made a little bit of a run this weekend, too.
Yeah, he played well last weekend. And I think he was top 10 last year, so I'm going to go with him this week. Hopefully I can continue my good fortunes.
You're going to have to tell me if I've picked this guy or not yet. But my first choice, if I haven't picked him, is Thigala. Texas guy. I think he's due to kind of snap out of it a little bit. Have I picked him yet?
I don't believe you have.
Good deal. Then we'll go with Thigala. Plus 3,500 odds, so he's kind of in that pack of a bunch of guys like Michael Kim and similar, probably Davis Riley and some others that are right around in that same range, like not long shots, not necessarily the favorites, but guys that will hang around. And I just think he's due to wake up and play a little bit better this weekend.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, that is golf.
Well, we do have a couple questions from Chris from a few weeks ago, so we may as well check those off the list. We're going to skip your first one, Chris. Ryan and I did talk about that in the car. Then we went from work today. Not that we came up with our own answers, but that's an NSFW topic for the TFS pod. So I'll give you my comments on that offline. So Chris had 2 questions more recently. One was, name the top 10 toughest college basketball arenas.
10? Man, that's going to be hard to remember.
I think Mackey, in the Big Ten, you can start Mackey, Assembly, Breslin. I think you got those 3 right there. I think you got Rupp, you got Cameron.
I don't know if Rupp's that hard, though. It's just cavernous.
That's true. Okay, so take Rupp off.
Cameron,
we'll go Cameron for sure. What about the Dean Dome? I think it's similar as Rupp. I think it's just big, right?
Yeah. The Fog, for sure.
Yeah, the Fog. What about when the Philly team's playing the Palestra?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's a great...
I think UConn's up there. That's always full. Gonzaga, the Kennel, the Pit in New Mexico.
New Mexico, yeah.
That's a crazy one. I'm trying to go through geographically. I think Auburn, when they're rolling, is pretty nuts.
Yeah, because that's pretty small, actually. It's only 9,000.
Florida, I think that's pretty crazy.
Arena.
Yeah, there's no other ones I can off the top of any in Texas, like Texas Tech, mate.
I think it's been a long time since, but if Minnesota gets good with their new coach change, especially with that elevated floor, the barn is classic throwback tough. Pauley is decently tough, but LA fans are just quiet.
You know what one of the low key best ones was when they were rolling? Carrier Dome, Syracuse, when they got 40,000 people in there.
True.
Insane.
Yep. So that was that one, and then this is another really good kind of thought provoking on the topic of NIL from before a little bit. Steve Alford made a great point recently about NIL and the amount of money players are receiving. He said, "I have 2 guys now who will not have NIL next year. After maybe they have, will they be ready for life after 2+ years of NIL money? Is paying, let's be honest, NIL was just a cute name for paying players. Are student athletes actually doing them a disservice? Imagine going from a 6 or 7 figure income as a basketball player to an entry-level salary as an accountant or an IT guy or
Right.
Tommy's digital marketing guy."
Right. It's a rude awakening.
It is. It is a rude awakening. And I don't think that any of this serves college basketball well. I mean, again, Tom Izzo's, you want to call it a rant or whatever in his press conference, it's a must listen, whether you're a Michigan State fan or not, because he nailed it. Like, we're not doing anything that is actually helping the kids. We think we are. It's just like parents who think they're doing their kids a favor by helping them do their homework or, not making them get a job and just giving them money or whatever. That doesn't actually help them in the long run. It doesn't help them become functional adults. It doesn't help them become problem solvers. It doesn't help them become good human beings. And I think that's what's happening with NIL, and that's why the transfer portal, as of yesterday, was 700 strong. It's probably closer to 1,000 now. Because what is it about? As Tom Izzo said in his presser, money, flat out money. There's no recruiting in it. It's the highest offer to the highest bid, right? It's asinine and it's insane. And I think Alford is completely right. I think we are not doing anything. We're trying to patch up the game by repairing these ills of the past. Like, we should have been paying players. I'm old school. I argue that, okay, for true name, image, and likeness, we're selling Cohen car jerseys. Cohen should get a cut of that. I totally get it. You're a local Chevy dealer, Sundance Chevrolet, and you want Jeremy Fears to wave on a horse, fine, pay him for that. I don't care about that. But to just give these guys money for what? What Hawkins from Illinois that went to Kansas State?
Omar Ballo.
Millions of dollars for what? They didn't even make the tournament. No. Like, it does them no good. And I guarantee you, they don't know what to do with that money. They're pissing it away. Because you look at plenty of guys who end up broke as hell in the NBA because they had nobody looking out for them, or in the NFL or in Major League Baseball. It's a complete disservice to the game, and it's part of the embarrassment of what's happening in college sports.
Completely. Anything else?
No, that is it from Chris for the mailbag this week. So sorry for the delay, but figured we'd get to those before we get back to the nitty-gritty of the tournament.
Yeah, let's do that. Start in the upper left south. We're not going to do. Maybe we'll touch on every game quickly. But we're not going to go in depth on all the games. I'd take way too long.
I'm just going to make this point, too, about the tournament in general for the Big Ten. The Big Ten not only won all their first-round games, they started the tournament 10-0. Now, only half their teams remain, but they also covered in all those games.
That's actually crazy.
So, meanwhile, yes, 7 of the 14 SEC teams got in, so half of them did, but like 6 of them lost in the first round. So, whatever the case may be, the Big Ten set a record, so good on the Big Ten for doing that.
Yeah. We started in the upper left. Auburn, Alabama State blew them out. Don't need to talk about that. Louisville, Creighton, first game of the tournament. That was crazy how loud it was in there.
Yeah.
Pseudo home game for Louisville.
Lexington.
Creighton played awesome. Shot the living night out of the ball and beats Louisville basically in an away game and moved on to the second round there. Michigan, UC San Diego. I'm not just saying this because this is a basketball person. I mean, that game was both ways really, really poorly officiated. Yeah. And it bit UC San Diego because their best player
and their second best player was out with like 5 minutes ago. He was gone with 7+ minutes to go.
I mean, it was atrocious, and Michigan, good on them for winning that game. Many thought,
they withstood the run. UC San Diego went ahead finally after scrapping and clawing, and then Troll Hair nails a unconscious 3, and that was it. UC San Diego had a chance to tie it at the end. That was a game that I didn't pick UC San Diego just because they were playing Michigan. I watched them and scouted them, and I truly felt like they were definitely a worthy 12 to win. And I think, they probably split a 10-game series with Michigan, to be honest, after watching that game.
Yeah, I mean, they're a solid, very solid team.
We'll tell you this much is like what's left luck factor wise in this tournament, Michigan's by far is the best out of all the 16 teams luck wise.
Yeah, without a doubt. Then Yale, A&M. A&M struggled a little bit, but pulled away at the end. Their athleticism really took over in that game. I mean, it wasn't surprised. I didn't pick Yale. I didn't think they would win, but A&M played decent. Then Ole Miss, North Carolina. After North Carolina just smoked San Diego State. Ole Miss plays well against North Carolina, sends them packing. Just back to the rightful place. No winning. Iowa State, Lipscomb. I honestly thought Lipscomb could have a chance in this game with the way they could shoot the ball. Iowa State shut their water off from the beginning, smoked them. Marquette, New Mexico. That was a bit of a surprise. I picked Marquette. Who I can't remember who you picked.
I picked Marquette also.
Yeah, New Mexico really did a job on them. And Dent played really well, as did Junior Joseph. And then Michigan State, Bryant. Michigan State just the classic slow start. Just
Brian, an interesting team.
Very tall,
positionless,
very athletic,
tall,
lanky.
Yep.
We're not a great shooting team, but they made some
Wore 'em
shots.
down.
Michigan State
Tough.
They're tough. They're well coached, but Michigan State in the second half just turned it on and really just kept the pedal to the metal and pulled away, covered by easily in that game, and moved on to the second round.
Yeah, in that region, I just had the UC San Diego and Marquette wrong myself.
Same. And then Auburn and Creighton in the second round. Creighton gave them a game, made a lot of threes. They shot it really well both games. But Auburn they're a lot. I mean, they're really good guards, some veteran guards, and then Pettiford, true freshman, that kid can play. And then obviously the bigs and Cardwell and Broom. Chaney Johnson, and Baker Mazzara kind of got hurt.
Funny thing is when he got hurt,
they did better.
They went on a 13-0 run.
He's very spotty. He's
more of a get in your head guy because he's just such
he can score.
He's a little bit of a
he shoots
40%
from three.
Yeah.
And he shoots 90% from the line, so he's solid. But Auburn gets the win there. That was, none of the 1 versus 8 or 9 games were easy, except for Duke. Really, we'll get to that later. Then Michigan, A&M. The way that A&M played this game,
talking about this at work,
a microcosm of just SEC, just pure.
They just come
back and forth. A&M starts playing really well. They're forcing turnovers. Making shots, getting to the rim. Pharrell Payne was a beast, former Minnesota Golden Gopher. Get up, and then they go to this weird junk, like 1-2-1-1. Like almost like a diamond in one half court trapping. I don't even know what it was. It was very chaotic, and they were really lazy in it. And Michigan got some easy looks, some easy layups, some drive and kick threes that could have taken the air, eaten a sandwich, taken a nap really quick.
Got a guy like Roddy back on track.
Michigan caught fire, and then Texas A&M went ice cold. Like Michigan's defense, I'm gonna be like they're ranked high. Their defense is not great.
No,
like they give up. Teams miss wide open shots against them.
Yeah, that's their luck factor, right? Their Ken Pom luck factor went from 42 to start the tournament to 30.
Yeah, you can't make it up. And obviously Michigan, like Roddy Gale, is playing really well, and that's the reason why they're still breathing. Because if they didn't have a guy like him step up, they would be home.
Because Burnett's
been
well.
pretty
Kaysen
bad.
Did okay.
Kaysen's playing well. Donald, it's
big guys are going to be your big guys. They're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, and it's really Wolf and Golden.
Well, and I honestly for Texas A&M too, not only was the junk defense, but I felt like whatever he is, the fourth, started to get a little bit I gotta take this game over. Yeah, and I think they went away from Payne. I think he started taking early shot clock threes or really contested drives, and he helped Michigan out too.
Yeah, they stopped moving the ball, getting it side to side, and that helped Michigan, and they're back in the Sweet 16. And then Ole Miss, Iowa State. Iowa State started off really well, and I'm like,
they were up double digits.
Iowa State looks scary. And then Ole Miss just bitch slapped them.
Yeah.
11 threes. They shut the water off for them. And, Iowa State looked like they wore down. They looked like they really missed their depth.
Their second leading scorer.
Guard play, especially in that game. And Ole Miss, credit to them, they played really well. Had a good weekend. They're moving on. And if they make it to the Elite Eight, they'd be the furthest they've ever been. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The Michigan State, New Mexico, another slow start for Michigan State. Dig out of a hole. Very
10-0 hole right out of the gate, right?
Very back and forth in the second half. Michigan State tried to pull away, and then New Mexico would make some tough shots. And they were a good team. Like Dent, obviously really good player. Junior Joseph.
Michigan State's game plan on him was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, they shut him off. 14 points on 18 shots.
They had 6 eyes on him at all times.
Yeah,
I mean, they had
really
and they were switching defenders on him, so he was getting a little bit of a different look.
Yeah, credit to Jeremy Fears, Jaden Akins, Trey Holloman for their defense this weekend. Fears, I think
and Richardson too, because he didn't shoot particularly well to start the first game, and he definitely didn't have his best. He had his worst shooting game against New Mexico, but he came up clutch at the end.
Yeah, he made some big plays at the end of the game.
No, but if you look back at the highlights, he actually did have some good. But he caused a carry. He caused another turnover on a fake hedge or a fake dig down. It wasn't one of his best games, but that's the thing is then what happened? Akins stepped up, which
Played
we've
really
been
well.
saying he needed to.
Carr played great this
Carr
weekend.
was great.
Fiddler.
Yep.
Kohler, not great. Zapala. Cooper.
I'm telling you, Zapawa is better in a single big.
Yeah, he's better against a true big.
Cooper's fine.
Cooper's playing.
He gives you a little bit more, leeway on defense because he's a little bit more agile to move. He's not as beefy, obviously. I think Izzo said it after at both games at some point. Like Kohler's problem is he gets so amped up that he gasses himself out in the first 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, he gets too tired.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do this weekend with an Ole Miss team that's not particularly big
They're
either,
a little smaller.
not super deep. Do they go small ball? I think Michigan State needs to go small ball.
Yeah, I would agree. Jeremy Fears, we give him flack for some stupid stuff, but he's doing a really good job.
My only beef with Fears, I have 2 beefs with Fears and Holloman. Like, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, they talk a
Like,
little too much.
don't talk that much. I don't need it. We don't need stupid teas, whatever. And the other thing is, don't AJ your layup attempts. Go in with the intent to score. Not go in with the intent that I might get fouled and then shy away at the last minute and make your shot tougher. Drive through contact, which Trey does more often than Fears does. Fears is more guilty of it. And then get to the free throw line and for crying out loud, make your free throws. Frankie was 2 for 5. He's a 90% shooter. Michigan State missed 11 free throws. They make those free throws and that game's not even close.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm going to find this. Wait one sec. Riley sent me this last night. This is pretty jarring stuff from Michigan State. So this is through February 1st. Cohen Carr was 67.2%. Since then, he is 73%. So pretty good. He's improved almost 6% since then. Jace Richardson through February 1st was 84.8%. He's down to, in the last since then, 83.6%. So pretty
much wash.
Jackson Kohler was 29 of 35, basically 83%. He's down to 79%.
Still not bad for a big guy.
Jeremy Fears was 76.1%, 67 out of 88. Since then, 34 of 48, down 5.3%. Carson Cooper was 27 of 35, 77.1%. He is 29 of 41, 70.7%. Frankie Fiddler was 62 of 68, 91.2%. He is 20 of 28, 71.4%. 19%. Almost 20%
19
difference.
points.
Trey Holland was 30 of 32, 93.8%. Since then, 25 of 34, down 73.5%. 20.3% drop off.
Yeah.
And this is the worst one. Jaden Akins was 47 for 54, 87%. Since then, 15 for 27, 55.6%, a 31.4% drop off.
Yeah, that's a big and
That's
not getting to the line enough. Either.
That's an issue.
That's part of the problem. Is Michigan State is at its best when Akins takes 3 or 4 threes a game and attacks the rim, and that's what he did
Get to
in
the
both
pull,
of the games.
get to the floater.
Yeah, that's what he did, and he really attacked the rim. I mean, he had some dunks. He played how he needs to play. We don't need to be a jack and chuck it 3-point shooting team. And that's my one fear with Ole Miss. We'll give up the 3 to take away the inside, and I don't want to fall in love with that.
Yep. You want to pick the games really quick
in
this region?
So I had 2 of the 4 Sweet 16 teams. I had
did I.
Auburn right. I had Michigan State right. So my 2 teams, Auburn and Michigan State, are still alive. I think Michigan, they're on a little bit of a roll right now. I think they battle. with Auburn for a half or so, and I think Auburn pulls away. I just don't see how Michigan can match up well enough with Auburn.
Yeah, Auburn's got a matchup issue.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it just seems inevitable that Michigan's going to win this game. I don't know why. I just gotta accept that it's going to happen because for some odd reason they get these weird heaters in the tournament randomly, and this seems like one of them where they have some idiot like Roddy Gale that's been Michigan fans were sending him death threats 3 weeks ago, and now he scored 30 points.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Michigan State Ole Miss. This is not an easy matchup for Michigan State by any means.
Chris Beard's a great defensive coach.
And you're like, oh, Michigan State, 2.5 point favorite. I think this is going to be first to 60, wins this thing. And I think Michigan State has just enough. The depth and the rebounding wins this game for Michigan State. It's going to be very close. I think it's going to be another nail-biter, like 65-63 type game where Michigan State just sneaks away and gets to the Elite Eight to play Michigan. And I think Michigan State prevails and gets to a 9th Final Four under Tom Izzo. I think if they play if Michigan State, I told you this on Sunday, if Michigan State wins on Friday, they are going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter who they play. I do think Auburn, wins by 8 to 10 points against Michigan. And I agree with your assessment. Ole Miss has been shooting it really well. They're not a great shooting team, but they've been shooting it really well
Michigan
so far.
State is the #1 3-point shooting defense in America.
They don't turn it over much. They play good defense. So Michigan State's going to have to shoot a little bit better. They're going to have to finish. We're going to have to not give up on getting to the lane.
Can't turn the ball over.
I think, we're going to have key guys certainly step up. I think it's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be one of those nerve-wracking games, but I think it's a game Michigan State wins by 4 or 5 points down the stretch. I think, to your point, rebounding, Ole Miss is a pretty bad rebounding team, and Michigan State's depth generally wears teams out. Now, you can't get down 10, 12, 15 points against a good team like that. It's different than playing in New Mexico, where you just know you can out-talent them. You're not necessarily going to completely out-talent an Ole Miss, so Michigan State has to be careful not to fall into that trap, but I think Michigan State wins, and then I picked it, so I'm going to stick with it. I think Auburn presents Michigan State with some matchup issues as well, but I just think when push comes to shove, Michigan State has smarter players. If not, they're not necessarily more experienced, certainly, than Auburn at key positions, but I think, Michigan State's got the bigs to combat with their bigs. I think Michigan State's guards are what is the difference makers. I just think they're just smarter. They're headier. I think Auburn's got a good defense too. Looking at it, their offense is 2, their defense is 12. This was last week. Michigan State is actually at 25 offense, 5 defense. So you got strength. But I think Brian's right. I think Michigan State gets to Sunday. I think Michigan State gets to the Final Four.
All right, you heard it here. All right. Let's go to spot 3. Before that, a word from our presenting sponsor. Team Anders Realty will help you find the home that fits your wants and needs, and they make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients for 30-plus years in the West Michigan area and are here to serve you today. Learn more at teamanders.com. We move down to the West. Gators smoked Norfolk and Pal State. Get the win there. UConn, Oklahoma, bit of a battle. Jeremiah Fears, that guy's insanely good. UConn, I think their prowess over, this is the reason they won this game, their experience.
Yep.
I think Oklahoma was decent, but I think that really helped. We both called this one Colorado State. Actually, I didn't. I picked Memphis. Why did I pick Memphis on this? But I feel like in every bracket, I picked Colorado State.
Colorado State was a nice team.
Now Nico Medved's at Minnesota. Really fun team, really good offense, fun to watch. They get the win over Memphis pretty easily, 78-70. And then Maryland absolutely smacks.
A lot of people thought Grand Canyon would be an upset.
That wasn't even close.
Nope.
That wasn't even a contest the whole game, really. This was a fun one. The complete contrast of styles, Missouri and Drake. Drake, literally the slowest tempo in college basketball versus Missouri, who wants to go, 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 go. Drake slows the game down, 67-57. Bennett starts. I'm not happy he's going to play
Heading to Iowa, yep, with their coach.
That dude is a problem.
Yeah.
He is an excellent
he
basketball player.
put in context, He put up numbers that hadn't been seen in the MWC since Larry Bird.
Dude's insane. Like, scoring, passing, defense, directing his team. He does everything. The dude's such a good basketball player. Not a good athlete at all.
No.
In terms of...
Doesn't matter. He's like Cassius Winston. Cassius
So
Winston wasn't a particularly good athlete, but he was a hell of a basketball player.
Such a good player. And that was a great win for Drake. We both called that, I believe.
Yep. I was perfect in this bracket for my first round.
I had 2 wrong. And then Texas Tech, UNCW. UNCW gave them a run. And I love their colors, the Seahawks. They actually just signed Siddle, their coach, to a long-term extension, promising him NIL and bonus and all this stuff, and he wants to stay there. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's only like 38 years old, so pretty young. This was my favorite game in this. It was it was a good contest. 2 really good coaches, Hall of Fame coaches going at it. Oh, just so sad to see Hunter Dickinson just not playing anymore.
I heard he's working in the Lawrence Mickey D's now.
Yeah, the loser can go kick rocks.
Yeah.
Arkansas played really. Jonas Adu, he was bad all year, and he's turned it on. He dominated Dickinson.
He did.
Boogie Flan came back. He played well. Kansas and Bill Self, just an embarrassing season.
First round loss, though, since like
2006. They went back-to-back 05-06.
05-06, yeah.
With first round losses, and they lose. And they spent so much money on that roster, which just makes it even more hilarious. St. John's, Omaha. Omaha gave them a game in the first half, and then St. John's, kind of like Michigan State did, just kind of turned their water off.
Yep.
And started making threes. They were just clipping. And then back up to the top, Florida, UConn. We touched on it already. Really good game. UConn kind of blew it. Florida made some
had that
shots.
game for 35 minutes.
Walter Clayton Jr., dude's a stud. Florida's got some just dogs. They're a tough team. Their bigs are good, strong. They play defense. They're fun to watch, even though their coach is a creeper apparently. Colorado State, Maryland, just a heartbreaker for the Rams.
An epic game. It was a really, really good game.
Huge shots, and then Lake obviously makes the NBA 3 to go up by 1, and then Derek Queen's the hero. Give me the effing ball.
Wrong foot, off hand, fading away out of bounds off the glass.
He's really, really good.
Yeah.
So that was a really good finish. Obviously, we wanted to see the underdog win. That would have been cool, but I guess good for the Big Ten to get another team in the Sweet 16. First time for Maryland in a bit to get this far in the tournament. Drake, Texas Tech. Texas Tech, if you have not watched them, please do. This Thursday they play later, but JT Toppin, lefty, he's like 6'7", 6'8", dude's a stud. He's an All-American. He cooked.
Drake had no answer for him.
He cooked in that game. He's fun to watch.
And Drake fought. They fought hard.
They just don't have enough offense. They're not meant to come back. They're meant to control the pace.
Not a great three-point shooting team either, and you need that to pull the upsets for sure.
Then this was the shocker. Patino Cal. St. John's looked like, aside from Zuby, they looked like shit.
I gotta look up while you're talking about what they shot.
Oh
it
my
was
gosh!
Like,
their best player, RJ Lewis, Big East Player of the Year, could be an All-American. 3 for 18, I believe he was 3 for 18 or 17. Patino benches him. He isn't even in at the end of the game, and Arkansas wins. They made clutch shots. They got rebounds, and they're not a very deep team either. They go only like 2 or 3 off the bench.
21 for 75 shooting, 2 for 22 from 3. And they missed 9 free throws to boot.
That's awful.
Not that Arkansas was much better. 27 for 63, 2 for 19, 19 for 27.
That's crazy. That game was a good game, fun to watch. It was probably one of the more poorly officiated games I've ever seen. Just awful basketball when it came to that, but just a classic battle between 2 Hall of Famers again in this pod. And that leaves us with 4 teams left in the West, Florida versus Maryland. Intrigued by this game with the way Maryland's Crab 5 plays.
Mm-hmm. And the Crab 5 fits the Ken Palm mold.
They do. They're solid, but if they get in foul trouble, and Florida comes at you in waves, they have a lot of depth. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I think Florida gets it done, gets back to an Elite 8, I think, for the first time since 2017.
And they both like to push the tempo a little bit,
Very
even
fast.
though Maryland is not necessarily a deep team, like Ryan said. I think this is very much a game that will look like the UConn game. I mean, Derek Queen is a stud. Reese is making free throws now, which is a problem because he gets fouled a lot. And if he can make free throws, he'll keep Maryland in the game. I think this is going to be a dogfight to the end. I do think Florida probably prevails at the end.
Could see Maryland win.
I would not surprise me to see Maryland win, but I think this is no more than probably a 5-point game.
Yeah, I would agree. And then we go down to the bottom. Texas Tech versus Arkansas, the Battle of the Reds. I'm going Tech. I think that Arkansas's Cinderella run ends here. Tech is very good. Good guards. They can shoot it.
And Tech's been better against quad one this year. They're 10-5 versus 5-10.
I think they wear them down.
Yeah, their defense is not much less than Arkansas's, and their offense is significantly better. I mean, like I said, Arkansas shot like shit against St. John's too. So I think it's a Florida Texas Tech final. I had Florida St. John's.
Yep.
I'm looking at my original. I had Florida originally in the Final Four, and
So
I scratched them out for St. John's, but I think Florida wins.
Gator chomp.
And we get a little bit of a Michigan State-Florida
rematch
from
it's been
2000.
It's been a bit since we played them. I agree. I think the Gators prevail, get to a Final Four. And then that's that region. That's the West. Let's hop up for spot 4 to the East. Duke. Wow, what a battle Mount St. Mary's gave them.
Not.
Tyrese
And really, Baylor, minus the first 12 minutes of the game, gave them no battle either. So.
I mean, Baylor, Mississippi State was a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the 8-9 games to start both days were good. Baylor prevailed, obviously. Oregon, we thought Liberty was a very...
they were kind of a chic pick.
Yeah. Not even close.
No.
Oregon just rolled them. And same with Akron.
Another chic pick. Yeah, I had Akron win. I had Mississippi State and I had Akron.
Not even close. Then BYU, VCU.
I had another one. I had VCU.
VCU, their warts on offense showed. And BYU can score the rock.
Yes, they can.
All the 28-year-olds. They got that dub. Wisconsin kind of pulled away from Montana. That was a weird matchup for Montana. Very outmatched. St. Mary's Vandy, another good game.
Fighting A.J. Hogarth. He had 3 points on 1 for 11 shooting.
Too bad. St. Mary's, I gain more respect for them. I think they're tough. Just fun to watch with the fundamentals. Bama Robert Morris was a lot closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Robert Morris was winning. They had a chance and then kind of ran out of gas a little bit. Alabama imposed their will.
They come at you in waves.
With their speed, just getting the ball out. I mean, they're like Michigan State times 10, getting the ball running down your back, shoot a 3, get the rebound, dunk, like Cliff Amarui. Holy moly.
He just went off.
He just, you throw the ball by the rim, he's going to dunk it.
Yeah.
His arms are so long, and it's not like a pop. He just, it's a quick, throw in. It's crazy. So that was the first round there. Then we had Duke Baylor. You already touched on that. Duke blew him out. Cooper Flagg hurt. Yeah, right. Dude's a stud. I don't care what anyone says. I hate Duke. That dude is a phenomenal basketball player.
He is.
He's Knuppel or Knuppel is how you should say his name. Dude can shoot it. Tyrese Proctor, he made 12 threes in the first 2 games.
The 2 big guys from Sudan and Nigeria or wherever they are. The one guy that's played for 4 years. They're huge.
Oh my gosh, he's 7'2".
And then Proctor,
hands
drag
on the ground.
Lights out.
Yeah, I mean, Duke is legitimate. And that Sion James, it's their 5th-year senior transfer from Tulane, is their kind of defensive stopper. They're excellent. Oregon, Arizona, a little throwback Pac-12 Conference of Champions matchup. We both picked that to happen.
Oregon jumped on them early.
Oregon jumped on them. Arizona comes back and went, and they were up, and Oregon came back. And I was like, man, I was watching the end of it. I'm like, man, Oregon's going to get them. Oregon has a chance to tie the game or take the lead, and they get the ball into not Shellstead's hands, not Biddle's hands, but Bamba, and he airballs a 3-footer. There was a really hard shot, and then Arizona made free throws. Caleb Love made some really clutch shots. They get another shot at Duke. They put him earlier this year. That could be fireworks.
That could be an interesting game.
Yeah. And then we had BYU, Wisconsin. Speaking of fireworks, BYU jumps them, and Wisconsin
kind of kept them at arm's length most
Wisconsin
of the game.
At the end of the game tries to pull a Texas A&M against Northern Iowa and come all the way back, and they had a chance. Tanjay had a shot to tie it.
At 37
missed
points
it.
Game.
That dude, I underestimated him. I was like, oh, this guy sucks. going into the season. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But that game, what is that? 180 combined points in a college basketball game without overtime? Wow. That's a lot. And BYU, just shooters galore. They're huge. They're, like I said, they're old. I'm pretty sure that their center is already collecting AARP.
First Sweet 16 for them since Jimmer.
2011. That was a great game. And then Bama, St. Mary's. Bama just wore them out. St. Mary's just no match.
Never went away, but they just
they're not built to score that many points.
Yeah.
They're not built to give up that many points. That was the first time they gave up over 80
in 56 games in a row.
A couple of years.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with a 1, a 4, a 2, and a 6, and I think Duke is just a juggernaut.
Duke's been the only team in this bracket all along that fit the Ken Palm. It's going to take them kind of beating themselves a little bit. I think Arizona will keep it respectable, but I think Duke wins that game.
Arizona's
8-10
Achilles heel is going to be defense in this one. They don't guard. And BYU, Bama, the over under in this game is 179.5.
That's crazy. That's 90-90.
Bama wins this game, and we get. I think Duke Bama could be an epic game. I do. But I'm going Blue Devils. I hate them. I've never liked Duke since I still remember 5 years old. Michigan State beat them to go to the Elite Eight. They were the number 1 overall seed. We lost them earlier that year. I remember watching both games, and I just hated them because you hated them, and I still do. But I think that they get to the Final Four, and right now I'd say they're my favorite to win it.
Yeah, I got Duke beating Arizona by 10, 12 points. I've got Bama pulling away from BYU late, winning that probably by 8 to 10 points. I think Duke-Bama could be a really epic game, but I agree. I'm going to I had Duke-Bama in the Elite Eight. I'm sticking with Duke, though, to get there. Don't want them. I'd rather see Bama, to be honest with you. But I've not seen a weakness when I watch Duke. You know, they talk about they don't have a true point guard. I don't see how it matters.
Doesn't matter. No one who presses.
Right.
Nobody.
Alabama could.
Yeah.
Can they slow down Sears? You know, that would be an interesting matchup. So that's how I see that. And I've got Duke there, who I had originally in my Final Four.
Yep, same. All right, let's move on to our final spot, the 5th spot, and that is the Midwest region in Indianapolis, the only site playing in a dome at the Lucas Oil Stadium.
Complete chalk.
Very chalky.
The entire bracket, I believe.
Nope, except for McNeese.
Oh, McNeese beat Clemson.
Houston smokes SIUE. We don't need to talk about that. SIUE, good story, but
yeah.
Gonzaga was up 27-3 to start this game against Georgia. In Georgia, they came back and got it to like 10-12, but Gonzaga was too much. Played really, really well.
One of the bigger upsets next, McNeese.
They jumped them, and Clemson literally, 13 points in the first half?
Yeah.
Huge
second half and almost won the game.
McNeese was up. When we were driving to Hopcat, they were up almost 20 points, and they lose by 2. And McNeese missed so many free throws. Clemson was making shots. It was crazy.
Clemson scored 54 in the second half.
That's crazy.
But still only shot 37% for the game.
Cool win, though. 12-5. What are your thoughts on Oracan?
I heard it like, whatever. He's kind of like Sturk for you guys, right?
Yeah.
I don't know much about him.
It's funny, but the fact that he's getting like NIL money, like he's some fat idiot.
He's going with Will Wade to North Carolina State, so good win, good story. One of arguably 3 upsets. You had 2 12s and an 11. Those were really the upsets of the tournament.
Then Purdue High Point. Purdue controlled that game for most of it. High Point, they kept them at arm's length. I thought High Point could give them some trouble, but they didn't make any shots.
No,
they missed so many. The game was pretty poorly officiated in Purdue's favor. Illinois, Xavier, it was close for a bit and then kind of jumped them. Kentucky, Troy, kind of same thing. People thought Troy could give them fits with the way they could score. Kentucky only lost 57 to them, beating pretty good. And UCLA absolutely demolishes Utah State, a team that scores a lot of points. They only scored 47.
Yeah, UCLA's defense is good all year.
Very good. And then Tennessee, Wofford. Wofford hung with them for the most part. I mean, all of the 2-15 games were really good in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half, it was a different story. But Tennessee pulled away late, get second round there. Then Houston, Gonzaga. I didn't really watch any of this, but I know Houston was up. And then
Houston was
Gonzaga
up by 10, 12, 15 points.
Made a furious comeback.
Had a chance
tried
at
to
the
make
end.
the game,
Yep.
and got it down to 2. But Houston iced it away. LJ Cryer, that really small, but that dude can fill it up. Houston's gonna be a tough out. Then Purdue just smashes McNeese. That was never a contest. They could not handle Purdue's size with Kaufman, Rennan, and Smith. He was pretty poor down the stretch of the season, and he's kind of looks revitalized. The Amish man, he comes in his horse and buggy, and I don't know how he's playing in electricity, but I don't know. That's his problem, not mine. Purdue's just like, I'm gonna use the word Oregon. Their whole aura just bothers me. I don't know why.
Fun fact: they're the only team in the Sweet 16 that doesn't start a transfer. Michigan State and Duke each only start one transfer. Everybody else starts multiple transfers.
Their whole thing just bothers me. I don't like them, and I don't like Houston either. I don't like Kelvin. I hope they run them off the court.
Yeah, I think they probably will.
And then Illinois, Kentucky. Illinois couldn't guard a parked car in this game. Kentucky got anything they wanted.
For a while, they were shooting like 80%.
Yeah, they were all open shots. Like they got to the rim. They had that Brea just wide open threes, pull up jumpers. Illinois tried to come back a little bit. They started making some shots. And Kentucky was missing shots, but Kentucky was too much. Illinois, really disappointing season. We'll see what they do from here because they could lose a lot to the portal, to the draft, and he might have to rebuild again. And then Tennessee, UCLA, I did not watch any of this game. I think it was
UCLA kind of, they stuck in there. They battled, but they just were outmatched. I mean, they could not score. Tennessee's a good defensive team, and they can score.
It's a bit of like Tennessee last year, right? Where their defense is, I think it's a better defensive team than last year, but they have a guy like Lanier that can fill it up. Last year they connect.
Yeah.
They have like good Euro bigs. Ziegler's a good point guard. Then Meshack, really good. Like Meshack and Ziegler are both two of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, National Defensive Player of the Year.
Number
That's
3,
crazy.
Ken Palm defense.
Which leaves us with chalk, like you said, Houston, Purdue, and Kentucky, Tennessee. Houston, Purdue, I'm going with the Cougs.
Yeah, I had Houston over Clemson, but I just think Houston is. I got them winning it all. So I think this is their year where they get over the hump.
Then Tennessee, Kentucky. Kentucky beat them both times in the regular season. We get a third game. And I think Tennessee shuts the water off, gets it done. I think the Kentucky ride ends here. And we get
it hurts too because what's the guy from San Diego State that plays for
Butler,
Kentucky?
shoulder,
ankle. He's a little dinged up. I think Kentucky certainly could win this game.
Yeah,
but I think Tennessee wins a close one. I think Houston ends up winning in that 8-10 range. I think Tennessee wins similarly. I think both will be decent games, not blowouts. But I think Tennessee gets payback for Kentucky when quote it matters.
I agree, and that leaves us with Tennessee versus Houston. I picked Tennessee on here, but I'm gonna go Houston. After seeing what LJ Cryer can do, and they're gonna win. It's gonna be 3 1s and a 2.
Yeah, I mean you got 10 offense, 2 defense for Houston, 18 offense, 3 defense for Tennessee. Both teams have a decent luck rating. Both teams play pretty slow. Both teams have winning records against quad 1. Houston's is more. They've got 15 after beating Gonzaga. I think that could be an epic game. Probably like an overtime type of game, but I think Houston wins.
Yeah. All right. Let's sprint this bad boy home. How far does MSU hockey make it in the tournament?
I remember last year,
Lost to Michigan.
Had
the
to
final.
had to rematch in the regional final. Cornell's anybody's in this is decent, right? It's the top 16 teams, which by the way, Michigan did not get in. 4 Big Ten teams did. There's a very real possibility Michigan State could have to play Ohio State again, just like last year where they had to turn around and play Michigan again. in the regional final and beat them for like the fifth or sixth time in a row, and Michigan got them. I think Michigan State gets to the Frozen Four. I think it's going to be Michigan State Boston, and I think Michigan State was going to beat Boston. I watched them. That was the funny thing, is throw all the games on. I also had Michigan State on my phone, which was a double overtime game. Ohio State had a nice little comeback. They were down 3-1, and they scored twice on somewhat fluky goals in the last 7 minutes, but albeit they scored, which then made it extra nerve-wracking, which is why playoff hockey, college or pro, is the best to watch.
Yeah, I'm saying Frozen 4. I don't know if they're going to win it, but I think Frozen 4 for sure.
Number 2 overall seed. Honestly, actually, they came out after last week ranked number 1 in the rankings, but pairwise they're number 2, so the number 2 overall seed. So they would be on the side of, I can't remember who the other number 1 is.
Boston College is 1, right?
Boston College,
Minnesota.
Boston College and Western Michigan are on the other side. No, it's not Minnesota. It's like Maine.
It's Maine, really?
Yeah, I think it's Maine. Maine plays Penn State, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I can. I'm pulling it up. Yeah, I didn't even know Maine was a good hockey program. Did you?
Yeah, the Blackbears have won the national championship. Oh, sorry, they're it's Maine plays Penn State. They're the number 3 overall seed.
Okay, nice. UConn's up there too.
You got Maine, Penn State, UConn, and Quinnipiac. I didn't know UConn was.
Quinnipiac, I've heard them in hockey. I did not know anything.
You got Michigan State, Cornell, Boston, Ohio State in the Toledo region. Western Minnesota State, Minnesota, Massachusetts in the Fargo region, and then BC Bentley, Providence, Denver in the Manchester, New Hampshire region.
Interesting. All right. I said Frozen 4. Okay. Did Derek Queen travel on the last play? That's a debate.
We saw it, but it was on your phone because we were watching the Michigan State game. I've watched it a bunch of times. Personally, my opinion, I know Gene Steratore disagrees. I know a lot of guys have said it's not because of the whole gather and whatever. I think it was a travel. He took 3 steps to me.
I agree.
I don't see the bobble. Gene Steratore talks about in that first step, which is the gather
still,
with
if you're
the bobble.
bobbling, you still... I still think it's a travel.
I think it was a travel. I think they should have called it. I don't think they were going to call it, right? Like, I get it. There have been times when Ryan and you and I have sat there. We watched it when we watched Michigan State Duke in 2019, and you said Xavier traveled when he was in the gather. Remember that on that dunk, and the end one dunk, and kind of a little key stretch in the second half. And that one was more bang bang. This was very methodical, like one.
That was
2.
very like
these were 3
pattern.
giant steps from basically the top of to the free throw line to the baseline. He's a big dude, so covering that much ground isn't a shock. But I thought Colorado State's coach handled it well. He's like, look, I have to watch it. He's like, it's going to take me a while to have the wherewithal to be able to watch it. But he's like, they didn't call it, so it wasn't a travel. I mean, I thought that was a good attitude.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Could they have called it? I believe that they could have. Should they have?
They will never make a call
Probably,
like that,
but they won't make a call like that.
They won't.
I mean, if it was even more egregious, maybe, but it's hard. I mean, like, he still had to make a hell of a shot. It's not like it gave him some advantage where he made an easy bucket, like at the rim, uncontested. It was still a fadeaway, wrong foot, offhand, going out of bounds off the glass. So,
Yep. What coach do you think more of after the first weekend?
which coach do I think more of after the first weekend? I didn't really know until Michigan State got ready to play Bryant about that Phil Martelli Jr. was a coach. I thought his team had a persona that was kind of a little bit thuggish, but also tough, and I ended up respecting it. I didn't necessarily like their chippiness early. So I think we knew Colorado State's coach was good, but I think he grew in my mind a little bit. You're never going to convince me that the cheater coaches like Will Wade and whatever are, whatever. I think Drake's coach I knew was good, but obviously 1 year after being D2 all those years, he goes right to Iowa. I think he's a great coach. It'll be interesting because Iowa's used to playing fast basketball, and they're not going to play fast basketball anymore. There's a handful of guys that I think I have respect for. Like UC San Diego's coach, the way that he's built that program from a D2 to this year, the first year eligible, calm demeanor while his guys were just getting screwed by the refs. I thought there were a lot of good stories. I thought, Patino, I thought got out coached by Calipari. Some of it is guys that just didn't make
mine's
shots.
Cal. I thought he was dead in the water.
Yeah,
I really did.
Cal came
Sweet
through
16
in his Pizza Hut
2019.
tablecloth jacket.
Yep, I'm going Cal. Coach, you think less of after the first weekend?
I mean, nobody got shockingly upset. I don't really have anybody. Maybe Brownell, is that Clemson's coach? I mean, they just didn't seem ready to go in that game.
They were
maybe,
sluggish.
but the ACC wasn't good anyway.
No, I mean that's mine's South.
No
no one's done less with more than him the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean he had a bought and paid for team,
and he complained about it all year,
and he didn't, and that's why you get what you pay for.
He used to
you
be
bought
a
bunch of
developer,
individual
he
players.
He went away from
Yeah,
it.
he went away from it.
Been,
Whereas Izzo has not gone away from developing guys. Clearly,
trust the process.
Yeah.
All right, that's 218 of these. We appreciate all the loyal listeners. Got the bracket group. Maybe we'll touch on that next week.
Yeah, a little shout out to Mana with a 4-point lead through the first week.
You go, Mana. But enjoy the games this weekend. Go green, go white. Let's get 2 Final Fours after this weekend. That would be awesome. Let's do it.
Meantime, as David Sarnoff once said, the will to persevere is often the difference between failure and success.